Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we're back with another episode of Way of the Underhive. This is a series that is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we will discuss the Palanite Enforcers and specifically how to use Palanite Enforcers in your campaigns of Necromunda Ashways. We'll talk about this gang's strengths and weaknesses, we'll talk about their fighters as well as their playstyle, and provide critical information that you can use in your campaign as well. And at the same time, we'll also provide you with 3 brand new lists that you can use to create Palanite Enforcers in the Ash Wastes. These rosters will be up to 1,400 credits, and will also include vehicles for your gang as well. So let's go and talk about the Palanite Enforcers and bringing law to the lawless in the wilds of the Ash Wastes. Alright, so first of all, let's go ahead and talk about the Palanite Enforcers overall. Now, when it comes to the Palanite Enforcers overall, when it comes to their strengths, they have excellent equipment choices. It's one of the reasons why Palanite Enforcers are such strong gangs for the most part. Almost every single member of the gang actually automatically comes with an armored undersuit as well as flak armor, so they automatically come with a 5-up save, and they're also automatically equipped with Stubguns. They're the only gang that actually has weapons and armor ready to go right off the bat. Another cool thing about the Palanite Enforcers is that if you manage to lose a fighter because they get killed from a memorable death, or maybe they get sold to guilders, you get free replacements. Other gangs have to spend money to get new recruits to join their gang, but you automatically get that in the form of the rookie Patrolmen, and we'll talk about that fight a little more in detail when we actually get into it. So because you never have to worry about replacing your fighters with costs, it automatically happens for you. Another reason why they're also really good as well is they have excellent access to great skill choices. For the Palanite Enforcers, they have access to shooting, cunning, as well as Palanite drills, which makes them very, very tough. Really good at putting in that long-range firepower, as well as exploiting stealth against your enemy. At the same time, the Palanite drills actually provide some unique buffs to your gang to make them very competitive on the field of battle. At the same time, they're also pretty cheap to purchase as well. They pretty much only have 2 types of gangs that you can worry about. They're roughly about 35 to 40 bucks per box set. These are the normal Palanite Enforcers, as well as the subjugated enforcers. You can get these from Amazon, eBay, other places pretty easily. So because they're pretty easy to purchase for your gang as well. Not to mention as well, when you get attacked, you also have home turf advantage, all the way to the maximum on that one. What ends up happening is that whenever you get attacked and challenged, your opponents have to fight you in your home turf in most cases in your precinct house. So it's actually one of the cool things about running a Palanite Enforcer gang. And perhaps the biggest strength to having the Palanite Enforcers, especially for the Ashways, is that they now can generate income in Ashways campaign. For other campaigns such as Dark Uprising, Law and Misrule, as well as Dominion campaign, Palanite Enforcers had a really hard time generating income for their gangs because they couldn't hold on to territories, they couldn't use boons from those territories. In the Ashways, though, we don't have anything to worry about that. And the reason why is because you're actually controlling trade routes, and those trade routes generate income for your gang, as well as a different road sections. So because of that, according to the way the rules are written, Palanite Enforcers can take full advantage of that for the first time ever. So now you can generate income for your gang, just like any other gang in Necromunda as well, and still have all these strengths helping you out. So now that we're done talking about the strengths, let's go ahead and talk about the gang's weaknesses. So now that we're done talking about the strengths of playing a Palanite Enforcer gang, let's talk about the weakness. And actually, when it comes to the weaknesses of Palanite Enforcers, there are not that many this time around, especially if you decide to take this gang out to the Ash Wastes. Now, one of the most common problems that a Palanite Enforcer gang does face is that you have expensive fighters because of the equipment they can use, as well as special weapons and war gear as well. So because of that, as a Palanite Enforcer gang, you'll probably be outnumbered more often than not. I mean, that's just the way it is. It's just like real life as well. Police officers are always outnumbered by the criminals they go on police, so same thing ends up happening. And at the same time, just like modern day police forces, you may also be outgunned as well. Now, this used to be a really significant problem for Palanite Enforcer gangs when they're in the Underhive, because like I said before, they could not generate income from taking territories or collect income from boons from territories. So because of that, Palanite Enforcers had a really hard time generating enough income or to get better weaponry for their gangs. In the Ash Waste, that's not as much as a problem anymore because now it's all about controlling road sections and creating trade routes, kind of like playing the board game Ticket to Ride if you ever play that game. That's pretty much how the campaign system works. So because of that, you can generate income now like a normal gang, so that should be less of a problem now. Now, of course, that does lead to their third weakness about playing a Palanite Enforcer gang, and this is more about other players rather than you. Unfortunately, just like with any other miniature war game, the balance bandwagon will be out in full force when people play Palanite Enforcer gangs. They'll scream that, oh my god, it's so overpowered and unfair, you can get credits just like my gang, and blah 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 blah, and of course they'll bring up a million thousand different reasons. as to why it's unfair that you're playing Palanite Enforcers, and so just addressing the fact that they might not be very good at playing the game. So because of that, do be aware of that. You will have to run into some immature players that way if you do play a Palanite Enforcers gang. I see this in the forums online, I see it on videos on YouTube, in the comments sections, and I definitely see it in my local game store. So keep that in mind if you decide to play a Palanite Enforcers game, because the balance bagwind never rests and it'll seek to be salty. So now that we're done talking about the strengths and weaknesses of playing a Palanite Enforcer gang, let's go ahead and talk about how a Palanite gang generates income now in the Ash Wastes. Alright, so like I said before, generating income used to be a huge problem for Palanite Enforcers gangs because they could not seize territories and can't exploit boons from territories taken during a Law Misrule campaign or Dominion campaign or Dark Uprising campaign. Now, for the first time ever, that is not the case. Palanite Enforcers can now generate income in the Ash Wastes. And the reason why is because the original campaign rules for territories for Dominion campaigns, Law Misrule campaigns, and Dark Uprising campaigns that are in the Palanite Enforcer rules don't transfer over to the Ash Waste campaign. And the reason why is because there's no FAQ right now for the Ash Waste for Palanite Enforcer. So technically speaking, because you're not really taking territories anymore, what you do is you're taking road sections and creating trade routes. So because they're not addressing the rules, I say go for it. I say tell your arbitrator, no, I should be able to generate income now because these are not territories, these are road sections and trade routes, and it should count. If your arbitrator wants to find some way to kind of include this in your campaign, just call it taxes, road seizures, and road tolls, or even civil forfeitures like police departments do even today. Just say that's exactly the same thing that cops are doing now on the highways in today's real world. Just apply it to the Ash Waste. So because I say that, you can generate income. At the same time, not only do you can do that now, generate income by taking road sections, creating trade routes, you could also take a Guild of Coin Cargo 8 Rich Hauler, which would be great for your game because you could generate anywhere between D3, D6 times 10 extra credits every single time you do a battle with that vehicle that actually manages to pull through as well. And since alliances are now becoming more the norm, I would also suggest either taking a Guild of Coin alliance from the guild, or a Noble House of Ranlo Guild Noble House alliance, or House Ulanti Noble alliance for additional credit generation in order to help your gang get a lot more money at this time out on the roadways. So because of that, I will bring that up as a common thing. Income generation now is much easier now for Palanite Enforcers to do, just like any other gang that's on the Ash Waste right now. I know a lot of arbitrators agree with that viewpoint and allowing them to do so. So I'm definitely doing that for my campaign. My friends want to play Palanite Enforcers, I'm totally fine with that as well. And like I said before, because they can now generate income, you're going to hear a lot of people from the balance bandwagon complain about this, but they can just, grow up and just either game or, leave you alone at that point. So keep that in mind when it comes to income generation. You should be able to do that pretty easily. And you can actually make a very valid argument with your arbitrator that you should be allowed to do so. So now that we're done talking about income generation, let's go ahead and talk about the individual fighters and what they bring onto the table. Alright, so let's talk about your leaders, the Palanite Captain. This fighter costs 140 credits. For their statistics, they have 5-inch movement characteristic, 3+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 4+ initiative, 2 attacks. They have 4+ leadership, 6+ for cool, 5+ for willpower, and 6+ for intelligence. And when it comes to the skill axis that they actually have access to for Palanite Captains, they have Brawn, as well as Palanite Drill and Shooting for their primaries, with Ferocity and Leadership being their secondaries. Now when it comes to the Palanite Captain does have some excellent stats. They have equally good at shooting and actually providing leadership support, or actually being good in close combat as well. And normally I don't like to use my leaders for close combat, but because of the armor options they have already off the bat, they have armor undersuit and flak armor. They're going to start with a 5-up armor save. You give them vigilance, pattern, assault shield, or upgraded armor, they become even more survivable. So I would say go ahead and throw these guys into the fray. It's perfectly fine as well. At the same time, when it comes to their range attacks, they actually have really good access to blast weapons or template weapons as well. These come in the form of grenade launchers, concussion carbines, all kinds of stuff. So because of that, the Palanite Captain is really deadly that way as well. Now let's go ahead and talk about the Subjugator option. Now the Subjugator option was an upgrade that you can give to your Palanite Enforcers. It would cost 10 additional credits. They would be armed with layered flak armor as well as an armored undersuit, so it gives them a 4-up armor save. And they could actually get access to the Subjugator weapons list, which consists of grenade launchers, close combat weapons, shields, and pistols. and maybe some heavy weapons in the form of heavy concussion rams and sledgehammer pattern assault rams as well. Now, back in the Underhive, this was usually kind of like a niche kind of build because you're looking for more close combat oriented gang, which worked really well in the Underhive. In the Ash Waste, though, it could be a really good variable option. And the reason why I say that is the case is because the range weapons that you can use now are not so restricted to being close to medium range, like grenade launchers or pistols. You could actually use heavy weapons now and have them use the passenger operated weapons on vehicles. So you could have that really high armor save from the subjugation option and still be able to fire pretty heavy long range weapons from your vehicles. So because of that is an option now, and I will repeat that subjugation option through all the different fighters, that how it's viable now, because you're not just restricted to the subjugation weapons for ranged attacks. You can now use the weapons that are passenger operated on vehicles, and that could really help level the playing field for your gang, and at the same time draw some ire from the bandwagon of balance. So now we're moving on to your champions. These are your Palanite Sergeants. These fighters cost 100 credits apiece, and their stats are 5-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, as well 4+ for initiative. They have 1 attack, they have a leadership of 5 up, 6 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 7 intelligence. Now, when it comes to the skills that they have access to, your sergeant's primary skills are in cunning, as well as Palanite drill and shooting. Their secondary skills are in brawn, as well as ferocity, as well as leadership. Now, when it comes to your Palanite sergeants are actually really excellent supporting fighters because they're very versatile. They could be really good for using heavy weapons. You could also equip them with special weapons, and they're still really competitive. Or you can even equip them with close combat weapons, and they'd be really good at that as well. What you want to use these guys for is to kind of stick around with your rest of your fighters, so that way they can leave their psychology stats to them to help out your patrolmen, bring additional firepower to your different squads as your guys are fighting out in the Ash Wastes. And like I said before, once again, the subjugation option, still a very powerful option, and very viable option for that matter for this fighter. It only costs you 10 additional credits for better armor. At the same time, if you're worried about getting longer range weapons and that Palanite Sergeants can't use that because they become subjugators, they can still operate those passenger operating heavy weapons. So it's still a very viable option even now in the Ash Waste, especially so. You're just giving yourself better protection as you go out there and fight. So I would say that as well. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about doing that subjugation option. There's a really good benefit to actually doing so now. So now we're going to talk about the Palanite Patrolmen. These are your standard ganger level fighters in your Palanite Enforcer gangs. You have these guys cost 70 credits apiece. For their stats, they have 5-inch movement, as well as 4+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 1 wound, 4+ for initiative. They also have 1 attack, 7 leadership, 7 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 7 intelligence. Now when it comes to the skills they have access to for their skills are Palanite drill as well as shooting. Their secondary skills are brawn as well as ferocity. Now, once again, Palanite Patrolmen are extremely versatile. They can do very well at shooting or at close combat. And the reason why is because their stats, for the most part, are kind of in the middle. They're kind of like Orlok Gangers in that sense, Orlok Gunners, because their stats are somewhat like in the middle. They can do anything pretty well. Now, they may not excel at any one of those things, at shooting or combat, but they can do pretty well at it, depending on what you kind of equip them with as well. Palanite Patrolmen are actually pretty deadly. They have some really good access to combat weapons. They have Enforcer bolt guns, which cost them 50 credits. They're basically bolt guns with better ammo rolls at 4+ for their ammo rolls. They also have Enforcer combat shotguns as well, which are pretty much combat shotguns, but you can also equip them with execution rounds and all kinds of different things, so they're really good that way as well. They can take shotguns, batons, and shock staves. They can also be upgraded to subjugators. And that, once again, like I said before, very viable option. Yes, they can still use grenade pattern, their subjugation pattern grenade launcher to fire grenades for their basic weapons, but they can also operate passenger-operated heavy weapons on vehicles as well. So either way you're looking at it, it's total win for you. It's just a matter about how much money you have in your credits and your starting rosters and how much you're willing to pay for your patrolman as well. So it's still a very, very viable option, very excellent ganger option as well. Now the last fighter we're going to talk about is your Palanite Patrolmen rookies. Now these guys don't cost you any credits. Now you really can't buy these guys at the very beginning of a campaign. That's not how it works with these guys. You can't actually recruit them, but they're actually good talking about because these guys are the ones who will be placing your dead fighters on your roster. Let's say you have a patrolman who dies. Instead of spending additional credits to hire a brand new replacement, you automatically get a Palanite rookie patrolman for free. So let's talk about their stats real quick. So they're around juvie level fighter stats. They have 5-inch movement, 5+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 4+ for initiative, 1 attack. They have 8 for leadership, 8 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. At the same time, they also have fresh from the academy rule, and it basically reads, if the Enforcer Patrol Gang deletes 1 or more dead or retiring fighters during Step 6 of the post-pack sequence, they may recruit a single Palanite Patrolman rookie during Step 6 Bravo. And that's pretty much how it works on that one. Now, like I said before, these are excellent GV level characters because they already come with a Stubgun, they come with Flak armor and armor Undersuits, they come with 5-up armor save, and a Stubgun right off the bat. You don't have to pay anything extra for that as well, so that's really, really nice. Now, there is some negatives about Palanite Rookie Patrolmen. You cannot make them subjugators at all, so you just got to take them as regular straight-laced patrolmen, but that's still not bad because of the things that you can do with your gang, so not too much of a harm or foul on that part as well. And like I said before, you really can't recruit these guys at the beginning of a gang roster, but it's still worth talking about because you will be seeing these guys popping up throughout your list as your campaign fully develops. So now that we're done talking about our individual fighters, let's go ahead and talk about the 3 different lists that you can use in your very first campaign of Necromunda out in the Ash Wastes. Alright, so the very first list is what I like to call the Highway Patrol list. It costs you 1,400 credits, so let's go and talk about that. First of all, you have a Palanite Captain, so it costs you 190 credits. This fighter has armored undersuit, hardened flak armor, a shock baton for close combat weapon, as well as Stubgun, as well as a teamwork ability as well. Now, the reason why you're using this character, he's more of a support role in this sense, so that's the reason why he doesn't have any big guns. Now, after that, you do have 2 Palanite Sergeants, Palanite Sergeant number 1 and 2. They're both equipped exactly the same. Both will cost you 135 credits. Both are armed with armored undersuits, flak armor, concussion carbines, stub guns with Dumdum rounds, as well as a fast shot ability, so that way they can fire twice with those concussion carbines. After that, you have 2 Palanite Enforcers, Enforcer number 1 and 2. They're equipped exactly the same. Both will cost you 125 credits. Both are equipped with armored undersuits, flak armor, Enforcer bolt guns, stub guns, and Dumdum rounds. So these are the guys who will be doing the medium to close range shooting with their bolt guns. And then once again, you have 2 more Palanite Enforcers, Enforcer number 3 and 4. Both of them will cost you 135 credits apiece. Both are armed with armored undersuits, flak armor, as well as Enforcer shotguns with salvo and shorter rounds. They also have stub guns as well as Dumdum rounds. And then you will also have 2 Scum Racers in this gang, Scum Racer number 1 and 2. They both cost exactly the same at 210 points apiece, and they're both equipped exactly the same. They both have Ridge Runners with crash cages, speed fins, tire claws, redundant drive systems, engine shells, nitro burners, as well as kill switches. So this is actually a good starting list that gives you access to what Palanite Enforcers have to offer. At the same time, the gang is divided into 2 equal squads, with each squad mirroring each other. You have blast weapons, medium to close range firepower, as well as vehicles in each squad, so they kind of mirror each other because they operate like real life police squads in real life. Now, squad number 1 will consist of your Palanite Captain, Palanite Sergeant number 1, Palanite Enforcer number 1, Palanite Enforcer number 3, and Scum Racer number 1, while squad number 2 will consist of Palanite Sergeant number 2, Palanite Enforcer number 2, Palanite Enforcer number 4, and Scum Racer number 2. Now, both squads operate the same way. Both these squads will ride the Ridge Runners using their heightened speed to engage enemy vehicles and to take out your opponents. Use one squad as a fire support team and the second squad as an assault fire team at whatever the situation may arise. Now, the Ridge Runners in your gangs are fully upgraded with stat increases and rerolls on non-glancing hits. Your Ridge Runners stats will have increased movement 2+ for their movement, as well as +1 for their handling, and -1 on lasting damage rolls to your vehicles as well. You also have rerolls with your crew, drive, and engine slots for any non-glancing hits that you take, making your vehicles much more durable. Now, unfortunately, you don't have any access to heavy weapons on your Ridge Runners because your Ridge Runners are actually just there to get your fighters into the fight. So make sure that those are your first priorities when given a chance to generate income. I suggest getting mining lasers because they have a higher chance to penetrate enemy hulls and armor, and plus they are the POMs. So get those for your vehicles as soon as possible. And this is what I like to call the Highway Patrol list. Now, the second list is what I like to call the Armored Calvary list. It costs you 1,395 credits, so let's talk about this list. So first of all, we have a Subjugator Palanite Captain at 230 credits. They got armor undersuit, layered flak armor. They also have Subjugator Grenade Pattern grenade launcher with frag and stun grenades. They have a shock stave, as well as stub guns and Dumdum rounds, as well as a teamwork ability. Then you will have 2 Palanite Sergeants. Palanite Sergeant number 1 costs you 135 credits. This fighter's got armor undersuit, flak armor, a concussion carbine, as well as a stub gun and Dumdum rounds and the fast shot ability. And Palanite Sergeant number 2 will cost you 140 credits. This fighter's got armored undersuit, flak armor, sniper rifle, stub gun with Dumdum rounds, as well as the trick shot ability. Now, after that, you have 2 Subjugated Palanite Enforcers. They cost exactly the same, 160 credits apiece. Both will have armored undersuits, layered flak armor, as well as shock staves, stub guns with Dumdum rounds, as well well as Wasters dirt bikes. And then you have 2 more Palanite Patrolmen. Patrolman number 3 is a subjugator as well. He's going to cost you 185 credits. He's got armored undersuit, layered flak armor with a subjugator grenade launcher with frag and stun grenades. They also have stub guns and Dumdum rounds and a Wasters dirt bike. And then subjugator Palanite Patrolman number 4 is going to cost you 125 credits. This fighter's got an armored undersuit, layered flak armor, vigilance pattern assault shield with a stub gun and Dumdum rounds. And finally, you'll have a scum racer in this game. It's going to cost 260 credits. This person is going to be armed with a ridge runner as well as a mining laser. Now, this is a very aggressive list which requires more close quarters battle, and the reason why is because there's a good balance between mounted and non-mounted fighters in this gang, allowing a lot of mobility at the same time a lot of flexibility. Now, it consists of 2 fire teams. You have 1 support fire team and 1 assault fire team. Your support fire team will consist of your subjugator Palanite captain, Palanite Sergeants number 1 and 2, as well as subjugator Palanite Patrolman number 4 and your scum racer. Now, this fire team is mounted upon the gang's ridge runner, and they'll be firing their grenade launchers, their concussion carbines, their sniper rifle, as well as their mining lasers at the enemies from a distance. They can dismount if they need to claim objectives, etc. So when that happens, the captain and subjugator number 4 dismount and fight together. The sergeants can dismount as well, but you want to make sure you want to keep those guys in order to get more fighters, in order for them to actually go out there and fight so that they can activate fighters as well. So until then, I would hold off until you get enough credits in order to do that. Now, your assault fire team consists of your subjugator Palanite Patrolman number 1, subjugator Palanite Patrolman number 2, as well as subjugator Palanite Patrolman number 3. Now, this fire team's job is to flank enemies and to close a distance in close combat. Subjugators 1, 2, and 3 can take full advantage of the ride-by rules with their shock staves. Because their shock staves have the versatile trait, they get 2 attacks in the charge, they have a 2-inch range on those attacks. Those attacks will be a strength 5 with the shock attached to those as well. So shock attacks are no joke with that, with their close combat attacks. They also have stub guns, Dumdum rounds, or short range shooting as well. Pretty much, subjugator number 3 also provides additional support with their grenade launcher, laying suppressive fire, and allowing subjugators to 1 and 2 to assault through the enemy and take out enemies with coup de grace. I highly suggest that you purchase this fire team with vigilance pattern assault shields as soon as possible. And the reason why is because while you may not be able to use them in close combat, that +2 armor save on your guys' armor saves is really awesome. It's an excellent buff. It's also relatively cheap, and because your guys are moving around at even 8 on those dirt bikes, having that 2-up armor save with that shield is really going to keep those guys alive. And that's the reason why I call it the Armored Calvary list, because these guys are running on dirt bikes, they're kind of like riding horses, and they're also up armored as well. Alright, so the very last list we like to call the SWAT Team list. This list costs you 1,400 credits. It consists of a Palanite captain, which would cost you 175 credits. This fighter has armored undersuit, flak armor, a concussion carbine, as well as stubgun with Dumdum rounds and teamwork skill. After that, you got 2 Palanite sergeants. Sergeant number 1 is going to cost 135 credits. They got armored undersuit, flak armor, a concussion carbine, stubgun, Dumdum rounds, and fast shot. And then you have Palanite sergeant number 2, costs you 140 credits. This fighter's got armored undersuit, flak armor, a sniper rifle, stubgun with Dumdum rounds, as well as trick shot. After that, you got 2 Palanite subjugator Palanite Patrolmen. Both of them will cost you 125 credits. Both are armed with armored undersuits, layered flak armor, vigilance pattern assault shields, as well as stub guns and Dumdum rounds. And I'm sorry, that's going to be for all 3 of your Palanite Patrolmen. All 3 of them will be subjugators. All 3 will be captain equipped exactly the same. All 3 will have 125 credits apiece. Now, because of that, because you are taking some money out of your gang, you will take that money and throw it to your Guild of Coin Hauler. This guy's going to cost you 575 credits, and here's why. They have a Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler with Munitorium armor container on it. They also have a grenade launcher on this thing, and they have twin storm bolters mounted on the Munitorium armor container's twin weapon hardpoints. Now, this list is all about victory through superior firepower, playing more defensively by using the gang's special weapons to do most of the damage and keeping their close combat fighters from protecting the Ridge Hauler. The Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler is designed to help boost the credit earning power of your gang, considering that Palanite Enforcers can now generate income in the Ash Waste campaign. Now, this gang consists of 2 fire teams, 1 support fire team and 1 assault fire team. Your support fire team consists of your Palanite captain, Palanite sergeant number 1, Palanite sergeant number 2, and a Guild of Coin Hauler, and your Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler. Now, the Palanite captain and Palanite sergeant number 1 lay down 3 blast templates worth of concussion shots against their enemies, pinning them or stunning them. Meanwhile, your Palanite sergeant number 2 provides long-range fire with their sniper rifle, only suffering a -1 hit penalty in most cases, so do basic action in order to dissolve this, and because of that, they'll be able to take out anybody behind cover for the most part. At the same time, the Carbine Ridge Hauler also has a grenade launcher to deal out with most light armored threats with crack grenades, or you could put out a 4th blast template and, take care of enemies that way. Now, the real killers with this support team are the twin Storm Bolters on the Carbine Ridge Hauler's Immunitorium armored container. And the reason why is that, think of them as more like short-range heavy bolters because they only have a 24-inch range, but they're strength 4 with 2 damage and rapid fire 2. Not to mention they also ignore the scarcity trait because the Immunitorium armor containers rules and have an ammo roll of 4 up to boost that as well. Plus, absolutely deadly on that one as well. So that thing is just going to tear it up because you got 2 of those Storm Bolters, the 360-degree field of vision as well. Now, your Assault Fire Team consists of your subjugated Patrolmen number 1, 2, and 3. Their job, oddly enough, is not to dismount. It's actually to stay on the Ridge Hauler and protect it from being boarded by enemy fighters from enemy vehicles. Now, these fighters can dismount to seize objectives if they need to, but make sure that they're within range of your captain, your sergeants, and the Carbine Ridge Hauler, because the only range weapon those guys have are their Stubguns, so that's all they have. So I would suggest upgrading them grenade launchers as soon as possible in order to solve this problem. And that's what I like to call the SWAT team list. So in conclusion, the Palanite Enforcers are an excellent gang with some severe handicaps they originally has a lot of severe handicaps in their income, but now that the Ashways campaign is out, income generation is solved, making this one of the best, if not the best gang to use in the Ashways in my opinion. Their starting equipment and their skills, when combined with the ability to generate income now, it's going to make them really unstoppable as well. It's going to be really interesting to see what players come up with now that this problem has been solved. But like I said before, because they've solved this problem for the Ashways, expect the griming, the moaning, the salty comments that come from your balanced bandwagon groupies. I mean, they're going to have a heyday with this all day long. Which I never really understood, because if it's such a problem, why don't they just play Palanite Enforcers in that case? But, that's just me, and you know how I feel about balanced bandwagon people. But anyways, you guys, there you have it. That's good to do for this one. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. You guys' input is valuable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good to do for this, you guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.